Everyone has a story, but not everyone gets to tell it. Life gets busy. We talk, we text, but do we listen? Are you looking for real stories, raw and unchanged? Want to experience life through another's eyes, one story at a time? Daniel and Jenny have you covered. It's time to start the conversations, and that's the #truth.
Today's guest is Chrissy L. Whitten. Chrissy is an award-winning author of her new book release, The Fight: Journals from a Warrior's Mother. The Fight is the first book in a series of 4 and walks others who may be struggling through a faith-filled journey of extraordinary circumstances. Chrissy writes honestly and openly about her daughter Lillian, who defied odds and mountains stacked against her. Doctors encourage Chrissy to prepare for Lillian's first breath to also be her last. But God and Lillian had different plans, and for 103 days, Lillian lived. She touched lives and left a legacy of love and hope. During this journey, Chrissy kept a blog of each of those beautiful 103 days. This blog came to be known as Chrissy's Caring Bridge Posts. Through faith-filled inspiration, a strong call from God, and some encouragement from some amazing individuals, Chrissy has turned her Caring Bridge post into a beautiful guide filled with scripture, songs, and soul food that will encourage and equip you for spiritual battle.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you here tonight.
I'm excited to be here. I love what He opened this door and I love it.
And it sounds like God's really opening a lot of doors for you right now.
Yes.
A lot to do with your writing, a lot to do with different things going on. When I say to you, oh my gosh, what's the door that came open to you first that kind of led to all this happening? What first comes to your mind?
Obedience.
Mm-hmm.
And being obedient to what God is having me do. Just when I think, oh, I want to stay away from getting that done. And then whenever I actually get it done, it's like He opens the door. You may think this little small thing is like nitpicky and you're like, why am I having to do that? And when you actually do it, like I didn't want to do a website. I was very against it. And I thought, why do I have to do that? I don't want to make that be about me. I don't need that. But then I decided I'm going to do it how I want to do it. I even have a countdown that I do on the front page to the next event. And I really wanted this song, The Final Countdown. I'd have to pay for it probably. And I didn't want to do that because I'm about feed out on all the things that you have to, there's a fee for this, a fee for that. So, but that's just me. And I will say, I have been blogging again. I'm not going to do it every day, but it's been a lot of fun. I feel like I'm living my 4th book right now.
Really?
And it's just really special because I can see what I need to remember what that 4th book is about and to really own the lessons He's given me and not try to relearn all of them again. Because I know there's been many that I keep relearning and it's like, oh, could you not just make that permanent? Like, come on.
I am sure you are not alone in that. Now,
Well,
so you have 4 books, but you've just published your first one of the set of 4.
yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and the inspiration to write that.
I had an English teacher. She was like my best friend. I did a lot of like cleaning her house so I could go on a mission trip or go, on my next trip I needed to go that meant something. And so she would pay me to clean her house. And she was also my yearbook leader and she was a mentor. And right after Lily had passed away, my first daughter, who the book is about, and our journey with her, she made me promise that I would turn my Caring Bridge post into books. She actually passed away sadly that same year and when she had made me promise, and I really was bummed and I wallowed in that for a little while. Like,
Sure.
God, why'd you take her from me? She was supposed to help me because she had published some books of her own and worked on different projects, and I knew, it would have been easy if she would have been alive. But I was like, no, you got to go through some things to get there. Because here's the thing. Would you want to go tomorrow and climb a mountain like Mount Everest?
No, I'm good.
Couldn't. You didn't do your oxygen training. You don't have any tools. You don't even know what to wear, what not to wear, because flip-flops aren't going to do it. I mean, so that's the thing. I need people to remember that. Like this fight, the first book, I mean, it'll take you into the battlefield. I have songs that God had just put on my heart and that really helped me through the hardships. Before we moved here in Tuttle, where I am now, I had not saved any of my carrying bridge. And I had the morning we were supposed to come and meet with our builders for kind of some final approvals before building. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was freaking out like, oh my gosh, if carrying bridge shuts down, it is all gone. I have nothing. Nothing is saved. So I copied and pasted every single entry. I mean, it was hours. I was like back and forth, back and forth. And of course, my husband, when we're driving, he's like, did God wake you up? And I said, yep. And he said, what was going on? I was like, he said, did you write another, entry? And I'm like, no, this is what happened. And I had to get them all, over. But he didn't know that I had actually divided them up into 4 different documents. And he is the one that actually said, oh, I already know it's going to be 4 books. And this is the series title. It's Journals from a Warrior's Mother. And this is going to be the titles of all 4 books. And it was like, if people knew my husband, this is not his style of doing stuff. And especially, so it was very much God speaking through him, because God knew, oh, she's going to listen if her husband's saying this, because it's very specific, because he didn't know I had 4 documents that I was going to do 4 books, because I had labeled them book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4.
Has he
So that was
felt
really
that
cool.
since? Like, has he since said, yeah, I was the one who moved that along, or is he like,
No.
gosh, I can't believe I got that word? He's just
No.
silent.
He said it was God. And he said, I couldn't think of it any other way than what it is right now.
Did he tell you that right in the car right then?
Yeah, he was like, Chrissy, this is what it is. Like,
That's awesome.
it can't be anything else. And I was like, well, as I'm writing him, going, what was that again? I've got to make sure. And I was just like, my spirit lit up, because it was like, I could feel it. Like, oh my gosh, this is really it. This is what it's supposed to be. And the first book is The Fight. And I have his aunt did the artwork. This is all watercolor. And I send her pictures and tell her exactly what I am very symbolic in everything. Like, there's a lot of symbolism. I'm Native American. And so everything is very symbolic. And so whenever she started, I told her, I said, I need it to be watercolor. Because watercolor doesn't always listen to what you want when you're stroking. And sometimes you just have to go with it and go with what it's doing. And that's what I love, because you have to go with what God's doing. And it turns out more beautiful than you could ever imagine or do yourself. Like on the book cover, even like the tree is a big symbolism of just being rooted in Christ, and knowing that, your roots and your foundation is the most important thing. And then we have the boxing gloves, because it is a fight. Lily's, like before, leading up to her, during her, and after, it's been a battle. It's been one battle after another. And just because I got some things right doesn't exempt me from other things happening. So I've definitely, so I love the boxing gloves. And on that first page, we actually did pull the boxing gloves, and she drew that and painted it and everything. So it makes it extra special, especially because it's his aunt. And all the books are doors, because God opens and closes doors. And he gives you the keys. And so we do have a key on the side of the book and everything. So I actually put in the back of the book a book cover legend, so you know exactly why everything's on there.
Oh, that is really.
And because I knew people don't know my brain. I'm very different, and I like that. I can make utter chaos into something really cool and different, because that's just God. I mean, I trust him to know that he's going to lead me, and I'm going to be open to thinking outside the box. And that's what life is all about, thinking outside of the box, and not, if you think things are going to go how you want them, it's not. When I was pregnant with Lily, she came 8 weeks early, and I had a baby shower planned the day before she came. And I remember on that Friday before she was born on Sunday, my brother was with me and had took me to the doctor because things weren't right. And of course, my specialist said, she's kind of like, you're going to have to go on bed rest at the hospital for 2 weeks minimum. And, but I don't think you're going to have 2 weeks. She's coming either quickly or within the 2 weeks. She was right. I had her that Sunday, but
Ahead of time that she was going to have a congenital condition?
yeah, so at 17, 18 weeks gestation, I actually thought I was pregnant with twins. So I went into the doctor and we actually found out that I had a 19 centimeter. Well, at the time it was like 18 something centimeters. And so my doctor said, hey, this is death to both of you if we don't get this taken care of. And within a week, it had already grown over 1 centimeter. So I actually had a partial hysterectomy with her, and they took my right fallopian tube and my ovary and the cyst out. And I ended up getting C. diff right after that, and it was awful for weeks. I mean, I dropped down to really, it was awful. I could see her in my belly. Like I knew exactly where she was and what her shape was. At 20 weeks gestation, we found out when they did the full scan, that she had heart defects, and we had to go to a heart specialist. And then we were told then she had 6 defects to her heart, and that her respiratory branches weren't growing like they should. And I mean, her doctor even cried and was like, I hate to give you this news, but I would prepare yourself for her first breath being her last. And I remember walking out and I yelled, devil, you're an idiot. Like, if you think the more bad things are going to happen to me, I'm going to hold on tighter to Jesus. Like, that's all I got. I've got nothing else. Like, I'm not letting go. I will die with my arms wrapped around him. I told my husband, I said, buckle up. I know we're not exempt from things. And I'm going to be putting myself out there and putting God out there. So I know I'm a target, and I'm okay with that, because I have gotten to see firsthand families that they had infertility problems like we did. We had infertility problems for 6.5 years. And I had a really bad miscarriage in 2006. It was awful. I did not handle it well. I went to a dark place. And when I say dark place, I just shut everybody out. And I got really busy. I even got my master's degree by 2008, but that's when I really started running though, and I knew I needed to get out of where I was at, because I would look at people and it wasn't good. My thoughts in my head when someone was like not being good to their kids, it just was not good. I probably was going to take out half the world, I decided, but God was good in changing that and working on my heart and helping me see grace and mercy and knowing that he gives me that. So I need to provide that to other people. And I even had another miscarriage, and we even got in 2008, and then we ended up, our fertility clinic fired us pretty much and said, sorry, you only have a 0.45% chance of getting pregnant together. It's really going to be God that does this if you're going to have babies. And so we had moved on, and we were trying to adopt a child. And in that process, we ended up that same day, the parents ran off without medical release and from the hospital with the baby, and they couldn't find them. I found out that day I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And with Lily.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was wild. I was like, so I think, my first instinct was, God, really? Like we were trying here. I'm really trying to trust you. And I could have wallowed in that on the whole not getting to even adopt. But then I thought, you know what, God, you got a better plan. And thank God that we didn't get that little girl, because I couldn't have had her at the hospital with me during Lily's life. I mean, we were in the hospital, in the NICU, for the first 51 days of Lily's life. Wow. And then we came home, and then we went back, and then we came home, and then we ultimately went back, and then she passed there at the PICU. So it was a wild ride, but I knew after we knew her first breath wasn't her last, I decided whatever God puts on my heart, I'm going to share, and we're just going to do this, and we're going to live it up, and we're not going to do it like normal. We celebrated monthly birthdays with her. We did all the extra little things. She got she had a baby dedication in the hospital. My pastor and his wife came, and we had the grandparents came, and we had a few other people there, and we sang songs a cappella and prayed over and
Like you or
dedicated
your
her.
husband?
Huh?
Does she look like you or your husband?
She is a good mix of both of us. Like, I have 2 other children since her, and they all are like cookie cutter like looks. It's crazy. Like, I have 3 pictures of them all as babies,
Mhm.
and it's hard to tell which one. I mean, you can tell Lily just because she
Lily.
had oxygen, but they look just alike. It's insane. That's
Oh,
good and bad, I feel like sometimes, but it is fun to when you're looking back at pictures, even with the other 2 girls, and it's like, is that Piper or Dad? Don't know. Because it's crazy. I have to kind of look at what year is it, and that helps me too, But we have played a game with people. Guess who it is? And they fell at it a lot, so that helps us know. Yes, they are very much cookie cutter on it. Now their personalities are different, but that's just life. But so I had my second daughter the next year after Lily. That was really tough because in August of 2011 was her 1-year anniversary, and I had my second daughter in October of 2011. And then I actually had brain surgery in 2013, and I got pregnant with my third baby, Daphne, 4 months post brain surgery. I thought my neurosurgeon was going to end me. He was not happy because I would not recommend it to anyone. It was really hard because I couldn't take pain meds. I had to do alternatives. I found that's when I realized Young Living oils was the greatest gift from above because it helped on the pain. Because I got drilled in right here and back here, and I have a metal plate, and so it was tough. And then everybody was scared to even let me deliver, because they were afraid. They didn't know what was going to happen to me. Like, was it going to be too much on me? So I went the whole 40 weeks. It was the first time in all my pregnancies that we're here, because Lily came 8 weeks early. Piper came 3 weeks early just because we were in a car wreck and I had lost half my amniotic fluid. So we have gone through lots of craziness, and in grieving, you're not ready sometimes, and you think it should look like somebody else, and it's not. I think the people that are more successful are the ones that have owned their own path and know that they're not going to look like the other people, and that's okay. Just the fact that you're processing is what matters to me. I know I'm in a different place than I was. I finally feel like I'm really all that work. Plus, I get to work with kids from all over Oklahoma in doing grief counseling. I facilitate groups with Calm Waters, and that has been a really cool fit that God has given me, because I do believe in processing and reminding kids that their job is to be a kid, and though they're facing adult problems, they're still supposed to be a kid in it. It's not their job to fix everything and solve everything. So,
really good message.
yeah.
How did you decide to section off your 4 books, and what is each one kind of count?
So I'm a numbers person, and I'm very symbolic in my numbers. So when it comes to the number 25, she was born on the 25th of April. So 425 was her birthday, but then she passed away 8/5. So the number 5 is another thing that I get excited about. And so I wanted to do her first, since she was 103 days old when she passed. I thought, okay, 103 entries, whatever that is, that's where we're going to stop.
Mhm.
And I remember it was kind of funny. My formatter is the only one, she actually caught it. She said, why did you delete entry 86? She said, we're going to have to renumber all of them. I said, nope, you can't. 103 is exactly how this book is supposed to end. It's amazing. Like, it was totally God, and I can't change it. And she was like, well, we're going to have to put something else in. I'm like, she said, why'd you take it out? I'm like, well, it was right when Lily had died, and we didn't want to do flowers. I really wanted to try to get the foundation started. And I thought, well, at least you guys could write checks. And that's all it was. It was a quick little entry, and I just didn't want it didn't need to be in there. And so what's really awesome about God is I had tossed around the idea. I spoke for 45 minutes about, give or take, at Lily's celebration of life. God had given me the dream of how her service was going to be before she even passed away. I knew exactly who was supposed to sing, what they were supposed to sing, and what I pretty much the gist of what I was going to be saying. And I remember calling everybody after that dream and telling them, and I know that was hard for them to hear, like, hey, I'm planning my daughter's funeral. But this is what God gave me, and you're supposed to be part of it, and I hope you can be there. And when that actually played out, it was, I was so on fire on just the beautifulness of God and how awesome He is. It rained so hard that day. And I just knew like heaven was opened up, and it's like everyone is they're rejoicing. And she made it home, and I'm like, one of my friends said, Chrissy, it's like you're stamping on the devil's face. And I was like, I felt it. I was there. And it was like, wait, this is my daughter's celebration of life. Like, how is this happening? But that's God. That's how He works. He's incredible in what He does. And so when I spoke, it was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And after I spoke, my pastor even said, oh my goodness, you're supposed to be a speaker. This is what you're going to do. But nothing ever came of it after that. But I wasn't ready. I wouldn't have been ready. It wouldn't have been good. So back to my formatter and saying we need to put something there. I said, well, I've been arguing back and forth about transcribing my speech. And she was like, yeah, we should do that. I'm like, okay, I don't think you know how long it is. It ended up being almost 8,000 words. And I typed it out.
I bet.
I would not highly recommend anybody transcribing themselves. It is not fun. I was like, Lord, this is a lot. If I say one more time, let me tell you, I'm going to lose my mind, because I said it a lot because I was so excited, and I had not written anything down except that these little clip notes of this is what I want to try to make sure I say. But I got too excited, and it was so funny. I was like, okay, here we go. But when I transcribed it, and I said, would you edit it and see what you think? And she said, well, when does it fit in the thing? The date was exactly in between the two entries, 5 and 87.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was like, okay, that was our affirmation. Like, this has to be in there. And I'm so glad we did it. And I know a few people were a little like, oh my goodness, you're really going to put that in there because do you remember what you said? I'm like, yeah, I do. But I trust my people to help me make sure that it's how it needs to be presented. And it has a couple of things that have been just tweaked, just a couple of words changed that changes everything. It makes it so much better. And I'm glad that helped me know, okay, God, you have the bigger plan, especially that's too perfect. It was meant to be. There was a reason why 86 got removed and had to be put back in. So
that's so cool.
And you call your first book The Fight because
of the battling, my formatter, after she read the book for the first time, she actually said, it's like I was on the battlefield with you. That's how you wrote this book. And I said, well, every day that I was doing it, I remember I probably was mad at a lot of people just because I felt like I was repeating myself all the time. I'm like, if you were just reading my stuff, I'm telling you everything. Like I was giving vitals ever. I was telling, how I was feeling, what you could do for me. But I didn't realize a lot of them did not read my stuff back then. And I've had some people that have already read it have come back to me and apologized because they're like, you were telling us and we just weren't listening. This was amazing. You were telling us what you needed. And so God's given me, that's helped me have some grace, but He did give me something right, like early on, since I was a runner. I remember one day it was really God putting it in my mind, like, I go ask Him to run a marathon. I'm like, no, I can't. But He's like, why? And I'm like, because they haven't done their training. And He was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, how many times do we beg God to stop something from happening? Like, God, get us out of this. I don't want to do this. How many times do we shortchange ourselves because He's trying to give us the tools to be ready for that mountain that we're going to be facing or helping someone else face? And so then that gave me grace to people, because I have many times not done my training program like it should be because I didn't want to. I was tired or I was being a little lazy. And so that really has helped me along the way. Like they weren't ready. And I can hold them to a little bit to that, but then also I can give them grace for that too, because I've been there, done that, and not done what I'm supposed to be doing. So.
Now you talk a lot about just each step and each circumstance that you go through being a training ground for that bigger job or duty or call on your life that you might have before you. What advice would you give to other people when they're experiencing some of those, it's one thing after the next,
Right.
and
When it doesn't stop, there's no let up.
Right. I tell everyone now at this point, stop and ask God, what do you want me to learn from this? What do I need to grab from this? Because obviously you know my future and you know what my mountain looks like, and I don't. So please help me pull those pieces out that I need to, instead of just sitting here wallowing. Because I look back at my life, and even my husband looks back at his life, and songs I sang to Lily, the things I read to her, all are things from my past. Like I did a lot of singing back in the day. I was part of the First Real Baptist Church. We went to nationals even. And so all those songs we spent hours singing over and over and over were embedded in my spirit. And I sang those to her, and they reminded me, like I finally got to see, they shone a different light for what I needed right then. It was like, oh my gosh, he's been preparing me all this time. Even my mentors, like there was a big one. I remember whenever I was younger, I was in middle school, and our principal at the time, his wife had me come and help. I cleaned houses a lot when I was a kid to raise, because I wanted to go places, and my mom and dad, they didn't make a lot of money. And so I was like, okay, here we go. I'm going to go clean this house, but I remember cleaning Mrs. Brumley's bathroom, and I was cleaning. I looked up on the wall, and there was this poem, and it was the sand, footprints in the sand.
Yeah.
And I kept looking at it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep going. And she comes in there and she says, Chrissy, did you see the poem? And I said, yes, I saw it. She said, well, let's talk about it. And I've always been the person in my life, I want to make it all better. Like I want to be the fixer, the provider. If it's going bad, I want to make it better. So I take that on. I'm going to be your entertainment. I'm going to be whatever it needs to be. And I take on a lot more than I should. I'm bad about that, and I know that, and I've tried to work on it. I'm kind of all or nothing. That's what I was taught in life. You go all in, And I remember her looking at me and said, Chrissy, right now, you have to remember there's been times in your life where Jesus has walked beside you, but there is one set of footprints right now, and he's carrying you. You are not meant to carry the world. And I just remember bawling my head off, because I thought if I was good enough, if I did everything right, that I could make it all better. But I was wearing myself out, because it's not my job to do all. That's God's job. Our job is just to show up.
And how old were you when that happened?
I was in middle school.
Wow. And she saw that in you even then.
Oh, I had a lot. See, I got the chills right now. God set me up for success. Mm-hmm. He really has. And that doesn't mean I haven't failed. I've failed many times, but he set me up. He knew when before I was born, that I would have a daughter that would die, mm-hmm. and that I would have brain surgery, and I would have this, and I would have that. And he set me up for success by giving me these essential, strong Christian women to shape and mold me and give me verses I needed, songs I needed. I mean, Angie Greer, she was our pianist, and her and her husband, they were our youth leaders too when I was growing up. And I just remember everything, those moments that I got with them, the things they poured into me, it mattered. And I think about that all the time. If we just did one little thing, how different that can make this world and what we're doing. Because if we keep griping about the same things, do something different. You change it, because obviously you're paying attention. You know, like my husband, when he comes, he says, hey, you've got laundry in the dryer, don't forget it. Well, I'm glad you had time to figure that out. Did you go fold it? Because obviously I haven't got it done yet. I don't have time.
You have these women, like you said, these strong women everywhere that have planted these seeds that God's placed in your life, that have given you these words that are going to grow into something bigger than you could even imagine, or give you exactly what you need in times that you wouldn't have even known that you would have needed it. And it all kind of comes full circle. And when we had started talking, you were telling me about and I apologize, I forget her name, but the lady who said, you need to put this down and you need to make this a book. And you thought, oh gosh, but God, I thought she was going to help me with this. But how much truly has what she's done helped you, even though she can't be here physically?
Well,
what she said planted a seed that carries on.
right.
And everything that you're saying right now about the little things that people can do, that little difference that you can say one thing, it leaves a legacy.
So in thinking of things, whenever we see wins, we don't realize how big they are. We don't stop and go, wait a minute, this is bigger than what we even know. I think whenever I'm second guessing myself, I think she believed in me. Like, she made me promise, like, not just saying you should do this. Oh no, she didn't just say that. She was like, you made me promise, because she knows I'm a rule follower and I want to follow my promises. I do not want to break promises, because I know when I have broken a promise, it does not feel good and I don't like it. I don't take it lightly on that. And so I think with her doing that, it was a big deal. And I think God knows that. He knows everything on where we're at, where we're not. He meets us where we're at. And there's been so many times where I'd work on the book a little bit and then I didn't. But what's fun about the whole thing is, for the last decade, I've worked on all 4 books here and there. I've went through them a couple of times. I've got 12 kids books I'm gonna do coming up. It'll be when it's supposed to be. But we have a plan, and I just think, God, this is insane. This is what's gonna be, and I get to do this. Like, I remember being a kid at church camp, and this is kind of special because my daughter just went to her first church camp this last week. And I remember it kind of brought back all those times when I came back and you're so on fire and everybody else is so not where you're at because they haven't been completely immersed in God. They've just been living life trying to survive. And you're out here going, I'm on fire and nobody cares, And so I think back of those times going, oh my gosh, like, you were setting this up, that I'm not afraid to talk, that I'm going to go. Like, I'm just trying to go and not be fearful. Like, there's been a lot of songs lately that, your fear can't stand a chance when you've got God. Like, you are going to be fearless because He is fearless. And I'm trying to remember that, because if someone tells me no, big deal, that's not where I was supposed to be. And that's been my biggest change for me, is really seeing that. And I know with the women in the past that have said stuff to me, they believed in me more than I ever saw. And they knew how special I was. They saw that I was open to talk about God always. And I'd seen God very early in my life working, and even with my mom being sick, I just know that that's how I got through it. And God always set me up to get to the next thing. I just didn't realize all the pieces until Lily. And as she was here, God really was revealing that to me. Like, do you remember when you went through that? I needed that for right now, for this very moment. And He didn't have to do that for me, because He doesn't have to tell us why, but He did. And it really did help me because I was listening too. I think that sometimes we all struggle. We go, why can't we hear God? Well, did you slow down? Did you have a be still moment? Did you just sit there and not say anything or think about anything else? Did you just sit and go, okay, God, help, what am I doing? I had a really cool thing happen this morning, and it dropped me to my knees. And because it wasn't the only thing I did in this was that I kept praying. Like, God's not going to keep us where we're at, but we have to be willing to step.
Yeah, that's very
You
true.
know, like when you're in a race, you just have to put one. Someone said, "How do you do?" I have done a race where it was 55 hours, and I slept for some of it, but I got 118 miles. And someone's, "How in the world do you do that?" One step at a time.
Mhm.
I didn't do it by myself. And God had a plan with that race. The people I met, what I got to share, what they got to share, it was for both of us. Even I had a friend that her brother had passed away recently, and it was even the number I finished on was exactly something that was very significant to her and her family. And I was like, I got to do that just because I was willing to go. And that's all we have to do. I think we have to do everything, and that's not the case.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's meant just to go and you don't do anything else. You just let God do it, okay?
So, God is always so unique in the way that he communicates with everybody. It sounds like he communicates with you a lot through numbers and dreams.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if there's other ways too, but you talk a little bit about did you be still? Did you listen? Did you hear?
Not
But
always.
but that's just it is like for
Yep.
people, how he talks to one person, it might be completely different how he talks to another person, but we don't know that unless we slow down, right? And say, okay, what is God going to show me here? Yeah.
And I've had people, they said, "Well, what do you mean by be still?" I said, "Okay, next time, get in a room, turn the lights off, get on your knees, put your head and your hands down on the ground and do nothing else."
Mm.
I just got the chills because I've had many of those moments where I've done that. And it's breathtaking because it's not that God is just, you hear this voice like,
Mhm.
"Hey, Chrissy, this is," it's that feeling at just your
Even though
whole.
that would be so cool.
It would be amazing. I would love it. But he is pretty, like, hits me on the head a lot because like I said, I'm stubborn, remember? So he is very loud on some things because I'll be watching a TV show and all of a sudden they're like going through something I'm going through right now. And I'm like, this is a secular TV show. Like, there's no way that I should be getting this lesson from this story. Then I'll be reading, scripture and it's like links up to the TV show. And then I have a dream about it that's completely different, but yet on the same subject. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like over the years, I've had people, "You should write a book." I know, I'm trying to. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I even had a lady, this was one of the best ones. I was at a dance competition and I had this wonderful woman walk by, and I felt like I was supposed to say something to her, and I did. I said a phrase, and she turns and she's like, "What did you just say? Do you mind? What did you just say?" And I told her, and she looked at me and she said, "My mother just recently passed away, and she used to say that to me all the time."
Oh my.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Okay, I'm here, God. What are we supposed to talk about?" So then we talk, and I said whatever was on my heart. And sometimes you just never know. It could be off the wall, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, why am I even saying this?" And then I'm like, it was what she needed to hear. And so then she says, "Well, what's your story?" And so I'll tell her a little spill, and she's like, "Oh, honey, you should write a book." I'm like, I've got a woman that is at a dance competition that I've never met. I said a phrase that her mother used to say, and here she is. "You should write that book." You're like, okay. It's like, I really am. And even actually, after I got the book, it's published now, and I was talking to someone that needed to hear something, and we're talking, and she's like, "You really should write a book." I'm like, "Actually, here's my card. I actually did. I did it. I finally did it. I followed through." Check. I finally, God, you don't have to, I'm doing it. I promise I'm going to do the other ones too. But this first one was a big deal because people think everything is, free and it doesn't cost you anything. And I have said a lot lately, and God's really put me through this on this. Everything costs somebody something, no matter what. If you get something free, that wasn't free to somebody else. Their time, money, energy, a battle they went through, and this is the outcome. It's not free because we are in a battlefield, and that's not a bad thing. It's like, let it give you energy, and know that, hey, wear that badge of honor. He's allowed it, so he thought you could handle it, like, because you're going to trust him to do it. So battle on, get the rock music.
You're like, not
and
only am I going to handle it, but I'm going to run 110 miles. I don't remember the number, but it was huge.
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just like one foot in front of the other. Let's do it.
You know what? Right when we first started talking today, you said, this is what I've learned is you have to be obedient quickly. And that can come, just like you talked about, with one of the most random thoughts ever. I want you to say this phrase to this woman. And this woman in return says, and write a book. So I am telling you right now, I cannot wait for that story to come full circle when that woman says, oh my gosh, I have to get a hold of her because that woman was me.
I pray God puts it in her path. I do, because I know that'll be in one of the later books, because I did write about it later on down the road. So I'm hoping that when she gets to that book, because God knows he can find her. He'll get it there and keep putting it in front of her so she can see it.
I love your passion, your fire. It's kind of like, ooh, let me breathe some of that in. Just try to bring it over this way.
That's good energy.
It's very good energy.
Thank you
for all you have going on. Can't wait to read the book. But a lot of people want to be able to get there, but they're stuck. And so, what would you say to people when they do have life kind of hitting them down, down, down again? Like, how do you get back up? Like, what keeps you getting back up?
Especially when it's, like she said, when it's repeated.
All the time hitting. I've been hit so many times, and I look up. And I know that God would not put me in the situation unless it was good. It was something that was going to be good for me. And when I've realized that he doesn't do stuff to us, he does stuff for us. And when I was with Lily, and I remember the doctor asking me, what do you want to do? Like, how do you want this to go? Because we're with you. We're signed up. And that doesn't happen for everybody either when it's the trisomy anything. And most of them are pretty much, it's it. They're incompatible with life. You're done. And I looked at the doctor and I said, I want to go with that I'm running beside her. I don't want to be behind. I don't want to be in front. I want to be beside her running. But I also want you to remember, whatever we're doing, I want us to be doing it for her instead of to her. And God really has brought that full circle to me, realizing whenever I got the brain tumor and we knew I had a 1% chance of survival if I did not get the brain surgery, and I only had a 10% chance of survival getting the brain surgery. And I realized I could have wallowed and said, God, really? I mean, come on. I have been through so much. But then I think about the cross and just mentally watching Jesus with that huge cross, the wooden cross, and he's dragging it. And he's walking up to finish this. And knowing that he even was tired. But he kept doing it because he knew there was a reason for it. That there would be an outcome that would be bigger than what he ever could imagine. And he kept going, and when he hung on that cross and he was beaten and he was bleeding and he was going, I think, this is my cross I'm bearing, but it's not even close to his cross. Like, I'm not having to go through what he went through. Yes, I'm going through stuff that really sucks, and I'm tired. I want the devil to leave me alone. I want things to stop being so crazy. I want, when I'm working on this book, not to have my formatter have a miscarriage. I don't want my artist to go to the hospital one more time because she's almost on her deathbed, or for her husband to be sick again, or for a car to break down, or for me and my husband to fight and go, this might be it. Like, oh my goodness, we've been through so much and this is what's going to break us? Like, God, please, what is going on? But I keep looking up and seeing him and knowing what Jesus went through and knowing what I'm going through it's not even close. But he's not leaving me. He is providing for me and helping me. He's given me everything I need to set me up for success. And yeah, it may not look how it does for everybody. And yes, is my daughter here? No. But guess what? She doesn't have to see this world and how where it's going. She doesn't have to go through being molested or go through being shot or go through being torn down because she isn't who somebody else wants her to be, or having to watch people destroy this world. I can't be sad about that because she's going to be in his glory. Like, it's amazing. So yes, you're going to get knocked down. And yes, just because you trust in Jesus and and you're looking at God, because some people may not we've got other people that have their different beliefs. But my thing is, you're not exempt.
Mhm.
We are here. We are not in the final life. Like, we have eternity to look forward to. And someone said, well, what if you're wrong? Well, you know what? If I'm wrong, I was wrong for a short while. But if I'm right, I'm going to be good for eternity. Focus on that,
It's a bargain I'm willing to
Yes.
take.
So, and I do have a little cross I gave to my daughter as a surprise when she opened it up at church camp. And I just want her to both my children to always remember your foundation, because everything else is going to fall. Even your pillars that you know and trust, they're going to fall because they're human.
Mhm.
We're all going to fall because we're human. Like, we're sinners by nature. Like, people always give the church a hard time, but one of my great aunts told me one time, church is a hospital for sinners.
Mhm.
Like, we're all just trying to get healed and fixed, and we're just trying to get there, and we don't always do it perfect on getting there,
Very true.
So that's my thing is, like, don't look at it as why am I having to go through this? Why do I get to go through this? Like, why can't we start looking at everything being a badge of honor? Like, whoa, he let me go into this battle, but I'm not going by myself. He's battling for me, but I get to be there with him. And it may not feel good sometimes because I'm going to cry sometimes, but other times I'm going to be like, whew, Lord, this is insane. I love it. Like, going into my brain surgery was beautiful. I had so many things happening before I went into that surgery. And I remember so many different phone calls of whatever God put on my heart. And I was just like doing God's work. I felt like I was riding off into the sunset with Jesus. And this was like the best thing ever. And then when my, doctor did wake me up, I was like, oh crap, I'm still here. Like, I was ready. Like, I was going,
Wow.
like, I have worked. It's been hard. Okay. But I'm glad now. I have seen why he kept me here. This wasn't finished. I've got a lot more to do. He's not done with me yet.
One of the best stories I ever heard right there.
Oh, it was great. He said, well, I can put you back. I know how to take you. I know. So you have to remember, when I was going under, I thought, well, peace, I'm ready. I've done what I was supposed to do here. Like, let's go. And then I had to wake up and see your mug. You can understand why I said what I said.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you really have to be at that place to be able to let go of everything, to be able to face some kind of battle like that. But you were handed your life back and you're doing all these great things. And so
And it
this
was a
morning,
struggle when I came back. I mean, I had depression that next year. It was rough. I had a long road because I was a little disappointed thinking I was riding off into the sunset. So I wallowed for a little bit. But thank God I didn't stay there. He didn't let me stay. He doesn't let you wander. He'll leave the 99 to get the one. And it's true. He'll get you. And he came, I remember he did. He didn't let me go too far.
so
He
maybe
just
for
rested.
people who don't know, or maybe they're not familiar with the Bible, or they're not familiar with a relationship with God, but a lot of times what happens is when you're on the right track, when you're moving forward with something that God wants you to do, there is a spiritual battle that's
Mhm.
taking place, and the devil doesn't want that to happen, and there will be obstacles, opposition,
Yeah.
attack, and pushing through that and knowing that you have God on your side. He who's strong enough to trample the serpent, who's strong enough to I mean, battle's already won, it's a good sign you're on the right path sometimes.
Yes, I always say, if I'm going and it doesn't feel like there's anything getting in my way, it's like, am I really where I'm supposed to be? Like,
Which sometimes
it
it
is.
is, but
That's
it makes it
yeah.
confusing, which
That's
is
the
yeah. So
yeah,
I just
always.
trust God to know He's gonna keep guiding me no matter what's around me, what's happening. Because I know when I had someone tell me, Chrissy, I'm just so tired all the time. I don't understand. I said, well, you have been really trying to do what God needs you to do. You've really stepped out there in faith, knowing. And I said, you've got a spiritual battle going on when you don't even know what's going on in the spiritual world. And I know that scares people sometimes, but I do believe, I know when I've been worn out and I'm like, wow, why am I so tired? I'm like, ooh, there's been some battling going on that I don't even know about. And praise God that He's there battling for me, because I'm tired and I haven't felt like I've done anything, and I know I'm wore out. So I know it's a big deal. But I know that people do get discouraged when they're trying to do the right thing. I know people when they've changed their lives and it feels like the world's falling apart, and they're like, wait a minute, I stopped doing drugs or I stopped doing this, and why is everything falling apart? I don't have a house. I don't have a job. I'm like, because God's trying to clean it up. He's trying to get you out of the places that weren't good for you. Like, I don't know why people get so upset when something doesn't work out. And it's like, guys, because He's protecting you. Like, you staying at that job isn't going to get you out of addiction. It's not going to get you out of being set up for if you had an affair. Like, He's getting you out of it. Like, that's a good thing. I think we just jump to conclusions. Like, we come up with our own ideas. Like, oh, it's just because it's getting done to me, but it's really getting done for you, and we just don't even realize it. Like, I told myself I'd never live in Oklahoma City, and here I am loving it. I mean, I'm not technically in Oklahoma City. I'm south of Oklahoma City, but still, for years, I remember when Michael's job might move us here to Oklahoma City. I'm like, nope, don't want to live there. Not doing it. And then here I am. But it's been kind of a protection for me to actually get the book done. And I already started on the second book, and it's a lot different than the first book. The first book was hard for me because Lily kept dying in it, and I went through a lot of illness trying to work on the first book. And of course, then I started on the second book, and I got sick again. And I was like, okay, hold up. Why is this happening? But I thought, no, I'm not letting it get me. You make me sick, because that means I have time to lay here. I'll throw up in between editing. Like, let's do this. And just, I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, I know it's not going to kill me, so let's just keep going, And I've made my ladies promise that Michael would give them the information if I did pass away before this gets done, that they would finish it for me, because I believe that they could without me. And that's how much I trust them in all of this, because they know my heart. They've listened, they've heard me out, and God's guided them too. And so that second book is going to be it's the fall before the climb. And I love my artist. I sent her all the pictures, the randomness, like I need this pull from here and this goes here. And she's already got an outline of the front of the book. And it's really cool because there's a waterfall that falls, and then there's a mountain in the background. Because in life, you're going to have where things are flowing, and you're going to have where you're not getting it right, and then you're going to be climbing and you're going to be falling, and it's just kind of a constant cycle that you go through, but the important part is to keep getting up. So I remember a professor saying, anything can happen to anyone at any time. No one is exempt. So it's cool. There's going to be some neat things coming up that I am excited about the children's books, because I know it's time to start working on them, because I'm getting a lot of ideas that are lighting up my spirit, and that's my guide. And okay, it's time. But I've been working on the second book to get the first edit to my editor. And then while she's doing that, because she has 3 to 4 months to work on it, I will start on the kids' books while she's doing that, instead of jumping to the third book. I'm going to go ahead and get the books, because the books are going to be Lily's nicknames. She had a bunch of them, but they're each it's going to be a warrior training program. And I believe it's something we're missing on just helping the kids see that, their help comes from God.
Well,
Exactly. None of us
have
can.
so many things coming up. I am excited to hear about all of
Thank you.
it. The children's books, oh my gosh. I know we can't hear about that publicly, what's going on right now with all the other details of that, but what you've shared, I agree 100%. It's something that's missing. It's something that we need. I love your passion. I love your fire. I can't wait to see what you put into that and your other books.
Yeah.
I will be eagerly
Well,
awaiting.
when you let God shine, this is where it's at.
Any last thoughts that you'd like to just, let our listeners know, or
I just tell people, be real, look in the mirror, and look at what you see. If there's things that bother you about everybody else, you probably should look at yourself first and see where you're failing at that. Because that's been my big deal. If there's something that's bothering me about someone else, it could be a sign that I need to do some work. Today, before we were doing this interview, I've seen our garden out there, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I've had a lot on my plate, and I'm like, I do not want to, weed out that garden. Like, but it is it was so ridiculous. Like, it was really bad, and I thought, okay, now it's really overwhelming. So I'm just going to start a little section. And me, when I start a little section, it means I'm probably going to do the whole thing because I can't help it. I'm excited. And when you see progress and it's looking so good, you don't want to stop.
Never to stop.
So and then I got my husband doing it, and I know that was not his plan today, but we were doing it, we were getting after it, and I look at it, and I just sit back and go, oh, that's what God wants to do for us. He sees our mess. He loves us, even with our mess that we have created.
Yes.
And some of our stuff, it's our circumstances that don't help our situations. But the thing is, our perspective is what matters. Like, we have to allow God to do the pruning, to do the not fun stuff, to get to where it's beautiful and there's no weeds. Like, without weeds, you can grow. So why would you want to stay where you're at and have all the weeds that are suffocating you, where you are so miserable? And like, if you're crying every single day and you're not letting go of something, is that fun? I mean, is that what you want to do? Because that's not joyful. What is joyful is going through some hard stuff, on processing it out, dealing with it, and then seeing what God can do. Because our brokenness, I've told my kids, even when I do my calm waters groups, I tell them, okay, guys, when you have a vase that breaks and you try to piece it back together, can it hold water? Can it?
Not really, no.
But what can it be used for? It can hold pencils. It can hold fake flowers that could be beautiful. It can hold just about anything. Can't hold what it originally held, but God has a different plan for it. So always tell them, remember, quit trying to hold water. You don't need to hold water. That's not your job. He wants you to do something else over here that's going to be even better than what holding water could be. And I can't remember where it was, who it was, about the pail that had holes in it. There was one pail that didn't have holes in it, the other pail that had holes in it, and the guy's walking, and by the time he gets to where he's supposed to be, there's no water. So it was like it was a waste, but really it wasn't, because when you look back, the path that busted up pail had been actually made a beautiful garden, and it had watered the garden. But if you're just focused on the brokenness and what you're not getting, you're missing what he has for you and what you're supposed to be doing. And that's my thing. I want people to remember process. It's not easy. It's hard. There's been times that I'm like, nope, not today. I don't want to do it. And I battle and I struggle with it. And then I'm like, Chrissy, you're not doing what you tell people to do. Like, come on. And as soon as I do it, it's like, why was I holding on to that for so long? Like, I don't know why, because because there's so much oxygen that you get to breathe, like clean, fresh oxygen. And that's what we're meant to be. We're meant to breathe. We're meant to live. Because guess what? When he calls us home, he knows the exact day and time he's calling us home. So why are we worried about it? Like we can't keep that date and time from changing. Like it's going to be what time and date it's going to be. So I don't know why we think we have that much power when we don't. So why don't we make the most of what we have and what we're given and do that? And there's always something that you're supposed to learn from where you're at.
Yeah.
And if you can hold on to that and trust God, knowing, ask him what he's wanting you to learn from this time to get you ready for that next mountain, I think you'll be better off and happier knowing he's got the plan. He's got your back. Someone asked me on a plane ride recently, what do you want people to get from this book? And I'm like, God. He's it. He's my strength. He is it. And if we think we can do it without him, we're fooling ourselves, because no matter what you think, because you can't see or touch him, he's in everything. And it is amazing when you pay attention to see how detail oriented he is, down to like the craziest, simplest thing.
You're so right. He's in everything. I think, is it Zephaniah 3:17? The Lord is in our midst.
He is.
Every
And the fact that he loves us no matter what. Like, I know we have so much in this world that it's all about what we believe and we don't believe, and you have to believe like I do and all this stuff. It doesn't matter what any of us believes, as long as we believe in God, and he's going to work it out. Like he really does love every single one of us no matter what. And I don't care what anyone else says. His unconditional love is limitless.
We're so full of truth and wisdom, and we just can't wait to hear more. If you want to just let everybody know, where can people find you? What is your website?
Okay, it's Chrissy L. Whitten.com, right? I think that's what it is. Yes. And it's ChrissylWhitten.com. And once you go there, you'll have access to everything. You can find me on Facebook. It's Chrissy L. Whitten. To be part of, and what you're part of, Jenny, of the Heart. Is it the Heart Collection? Is that the exact name?
Collection? Yes, you're going to be joining us there. That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Which is,
yes,
a resource store, basically, that provides resources to the congenital heart defect and bereavement community. And we can't wait to have your books.
Yes. I just got the information sent to me to send you guys all the information now. So I've been approved, and so that's going to be on my website, and I'll be connecting with you guys on that, which I'm very excited about.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and we hope you join us again. We could talk to you for hours.
Oh, I would love to. Anytime I get to talk about God, I'm all for it. So there's so many different things. You could probably say a word, and I probably have something God's given me at some point to say about it. And I appreciate you both. You have such wonderful spirits about you, and I love that you're doing this, because it's a great place to be able to share what it needs to be shared in the world. So I'm going to be praying for you that you continue to get to do this and have the strength and ability to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to be praying for you as well.